Chapter 261 Suyin Sect, Huowu Sect. As the drumbeats subsided, their lingering sound cleansed the souls of the crowd. At that moment, Uncle Zhou appeared at the bow of the ship. Looking at the crowds filling the city, a sense of pride rose within me. I had always been by the young master's side and witnessed the development of Pengyun merchant ship. Previously, I had only learned about Pengyun merchant ship's fame in the cultivation world through Wanbage. But now I truly understand. He stepped forward, his calm and clear voice reaching everyone's ears. Fellow Taoists, the auction is about to begin. Please enter in an orderly manner. As soon as he finished speaking, the grey mist above the Pengyun merchant ship surged and condensed into a huge teleportation entrance. But the grey mist did not stop there. It quickly extended downwards, creating grey mist stone steps in the void. It connects Pengyun merchant ship with Tianzhu Mountain. As the cultivators looked up along the stone steps shrouded in grey mist, they had a momentary illusion that it was the path to immortality leading to the Great Tao. The gate was open, but the cultivators who were originally extremely eager calmed down and stopped to watch. I wonder which important figures will be attending this time, a cultivator asked curiously. They came here just to watch the excitement, so naturally they couldn't miss the opening act. Wanbage will definitely come. They described the Pengyun merchant ship as something extraordinary. If they can't produce any decent treasures at this auction, it shouldn't happen, right? After all, Wanbage is a top-tier power, and they certainly wouldn't make false claims. Suddenly, a ripple appeared in the void, and the palace master of myriad manifestations, dressed in a black and white Taoist robe, appeared in the air. The cultivators below immediately fell silent, their eyes burning as they stared intently at the figure in the air. The palace master of Wanxiong Palace is the palace master of Wanxiong Tianheng Palace, the #1 power in the cultivation world. If they hadn't come to participate in the Pengyun auction, they might never have been able to see him in person. Compared to the excitement of the cultivators below, the palace master of myriad manifestations, standing in the void, had a rather complicated expression. Pengyun merchant ship? He had originally intended to break through the void and enter the teleportation array. But an irresistible force compelled him to leave. His gaze fell on the grey mist steps below, and the palace master of myriad manifestations looked rather grim, especially with so many cultivators watching from outside. As he hesitated, several figures appeared beside him. One of them failed to stabilize himself in the void and staggered downwards. Ah! His limbs thrashed wildly, and he barely managed to stand up as he fell to the ground. What's going on? A stunningly beautiful female cultivator with cascading black hair stood up, rubbing her chest, and pouted as she looked at the Pengyun merchant ship with dissatisfaction. An elderly woman with white hair appeared beside her and patted her back. Yugu, are you all right? Yugu shook her head, calming the swelling in her chest. Elder, Yugu was just acting rashly for a moment, she's all right. The moment the woman appeared, the surrounding crowd erupted in a clamor. Wow, it's Fairy Yuga, my dream goddess. Tell me quickly why I appeared in your dream, or I'll beat you to death. I am fortunate to have seen the true face of Fairy Yuga today. She truly deserves to be ranked 8th on the Shen Tian beauty list. The beauty list created by Wanbage has 3 members from Suyin sect. Many people wore subtle smiles, indicating they understood something. The Suyin sect ranks 7th among the forces in the central region. The entire sect is composed of women, and there are branches of the Suyin sect in various cities of different forces. Their business spans the entire cultivation world. It can rival Wanbage. Although these people could not eat the Jade Song Fairy, they had still tasted the celestial music of the Suyin sect. But sometimes, due to a lack of spirit stones, no matter how excited one is, one can only freeze one's hands. The surrounding crowd erupted in shrill, ear-piercing noises again, but this time it was all girls. Beside Yugu appeared a handsome and upright man, exuding a gentle and peaceful aura in every gesture. Fu Yongyan, it's young master Yongyan. Ah, I'm going to faint. I was fortunate enough to eat at Huowu sect once. It is said that he was an outer disciple of Master Fu Yongyan, managing cattle and horses. You brat, you ate really well. How much did it cost? Not much, 1,000 low-grade spirit stones. You should try the fire dance rising dragon technique when you have the chance. Otherwise, you'll have wasted your cultivation journey. I'll go after that. The male cultivators nearby all showed disdain. The Suyin sect and the Huowu sect are two very famous sects in the Shention cultivation world. One earns male cultivation resources and occasionally takes care of female cultivation resources. The other earns female cultivation resources and takes care of male cultivation resources. These two forces rose to prominence based on this, and respectively ranked 7th and 9th among the forces in the central region. It seems that there are still more lecherous male cultivators. Previously, Wanbeige had published a list of the most charming men in the cultivation world. However, the top spot belonged to Xing Tsong Daojun of Taixu Dao Palace. It is said that Xing Tsong Daojun, who had always lived in seclusion, descended upon Wanbeige. After that day, Wanbeige quickly removed the list. Therefore, the current list of the most charming men is just a random list, not a formal list of beauties. However, Huaman values this ranking list the most. They occupy 9 of the top 10 spots on the list, but the top spot still belongs to someone else. That person held an irreplaceable position in the female cultivator's heart. While everyone's attention was elsewhere, the palace master of myriad manifestations quietly arrived at the teleportation gate, glanced at the people outside, and breathed a sigh of relief. I straightened my clothes and stepped inside without hesitation. Numerous important figures appeared one after another, but they were prepared and appeared directly at the bottom of the steps, stepping upwards. Only Ling Yuge and Fu Yongyan maintained their easygoing personas with faint smiles, waving to their respective supporters. When they go out, every move they make represents the reputation of their sect. Only when the reputation is established will people patronize their business. They can also benefit from this and obtain more cultivation resources. Suddenly, the sky darkened, and starlight twinkled in the void. Surrounded by starlight, a man dressed in a blue Taoist robe, enveloped in starlight, stepped out. Beneath my feet lies a road as dazzling as the Milky Way, and my eyes seem to glow with a fluorescent light as I open and close them. Ah, it's the 1,000-star god child. Everyone's attention shifted instantly, and no one paid any more attention to Ling Yuge and Fu Yongyan. Fu Yongyan's gaze darkened slightly, while Ling Yuge beside him let out a cold snort. Yuge. The old woman next to her quickly pulled her back. The person above is not someone that the Suyin sect can afford to offend. Understood, elder. Fu Yongyang and Su Yuge nodded to each other and then stepped onto the stairs. Since the two factions are not in competition, their relationship is generally quite good. Upon reaching the teleportation portal, both of them stopped in their tracks, looked up at the charismatic man posing in the sky, and a barely perceptible sneer appeared on their lips. It's about time. Ling Yuge muttered to herself. Bang! An invisible palm of light tore through the void, shattering countless stars, accompanied by a roar. You little beast, you've completely disgraced my Taixu Dao Palace. Chapter 262 Boundless Sea of Clouds. Seeing this, Yuge and Fu Yongyan smiled at each other and stepped into the teleportation array with satisfaction. This is clearly not the first time such a situation has occurred. Qianqing, as Xingtsong Daojuan's disciple, has a personality completely opposite to his master's, and loves to show off. He felt extremely proud that so many female cultivators had propelled him to the top of the unofficial rankings. This happens every time there's a major event. However, as the divine child of the void, Qianqing's status alone makes him unmatched by others. An angry old man suddenly appeared beside Qianqing, picked him up like a chick, and walked towards the Pengyun merchant ship. This was none other than Daoist Lingshu, but at this moment, the old man was no longer as kind as before. Qianqing covered her face with her hands. Uncle Master, please put me down, this is too embarrassing. But Ling Su remained silent. He didn't think that the thing he was holding had any face left. Does he even possess the ability to save face? The female cultivators looked reluctant as they watched Qianqing being carried away. Is young Master Qianqing still this adorable? This is the truth. Compared to this, even the men of the fire dance sect don't seem so appealing. How can you compare them? One of you spends money to support him, and the other spends money to support you. If I become Daoist partners with young Master Qianqing, I can enter the Lingshu Holy Land. The men around him all looked disdainful. They were more envious of Qianqing Shenxi's talent and background. With this, the path to immortality can be made smoother. As everyone marveled, dragons and phoenixes soared in the void, accompanied by the sounds of dragons roaring and phoenixes singing, with golden and red lights reflecting off each other, directly dyeing the sky with golden and red glow. Two groups of figures appeared in the void, standing opposite each other. Without saying much, he went directly into the Pengyun merchant ship. With the appearance of numerous powerful forces, the crowd gasped in astonishment. Only now did everyone realize that they had underestimated the Pengyun merchant ship. They may not believe Wanbei's introduction, but are these powerful forces also fools? Their position and level of influence meant they were bound to know more inside information than anyone else. Everyone's gazes were fixed intently on the Pengyun merchant ship. Perhaps it's true, as Wanbei described, that obtaining the Pengyun Token grants access to the immortal realm. In the void, the three men, including Old Gu, who had been maintaining order, were now covered in cold sweat. He swallowed hard. Even though I had guessed there would be immortal-level beings, I didn't expect there to be so many. Big brother, you truly live up to your title, the burly bull exclaimed, a hint of lingering fear rising within him. Now he no longer doubts old Ge's decision. Fortunately, they invited Wanxiong Tianheng Palace, otherwise the three of them really wouldn't have been able to handle the situation. As for taking 90% of the profits, that's a minor matter. I'd give it all away. Humph. Old Gus snorted coldly. Just keep your mouth shut. He was truly helpless against the bull-like personality. It was as if his brain was useless. If it weren't for my strong limbs, I would have been beaten to death long ago. Hearing the murmurs below, Hua Buyu looked at Old Gu with great curiosity. Brother, everyone's counting the forces that have arrived. It seems like we're still missing 3 from the top 10. Hua Buyu counted on his fingers. I only know about the Northern Wilderness White Emperor Golden Spirit Clan. Who are the other 2? Old Gur stroked his beard. These 3 are all forces from other regions. Apart from the Northern Wilderness, which has some cultivators who know about them, the other 2 have all gone into seclusion. One is the Xianming Illusion Whale Clan of the southern region, and the other is the Boundless Cloud Sea of the western region. Hua Buyu frowned slightly. She knew something about the Xianming Illusion Whale. It was a top-tier demonic beast in the Shention cultivation world. The Boundless Sea of Clouds, however, leaves little impression. Just as she was about to ask more questions, a tiger's roar came from the sky. A gigantic white tiger phantom appeared in the void, its oppressive aura permeating the entire area. The illusory figure dissipated, and a group of people emerged, led by a noble-looking white-haired youth. The crowd quickly stepped aside, making way for them. The Northern Wilderness has arrived, Old Gus sighed softly. Of the 10 major powers, only 2 remain. But he was unaware that the patriarch of the Xianming Illusion Whale Clan had already gone inside. Only Wuyen Yunhai was absent from this Pengyun auction. After all the big shots had entered, the remaining cultivators entered the Pengyun merchant ship in an orderly manner. Meanwhile, in the western regions, near the edge of the central region, the sea of clouds churned, and the undulating mountains could be vaguely seen. Deep within the sea of clouds, golden Buddhist light permeated the air, coating the clouds with a layer of dazzling golden light. The light was not scorching, but rather gentle and clear, carrying an indescribable compassion and peace. As the golden light flowed, it seemed as if faint chanting could be heard, cleansing the mind and bringing peace to all things. If Blood Lotus were here, she would surely be able to sense that this is the most authentic Buddhist and Taoist aura. This is far beyond what heretical Buddhist practices like the joyful Buddha could possess. Parting the clouds, several temples stand atop the mountain, not grand or imposing, perhaps even less impressive than temples in the mortal world, with only wisps of smoke rising from them. In a small square, 3 children with shaved heads are reciting scriptures. Its clear and resonant tone already hints at the dignified bearing of a Buddhist monk. A monk in his early 20s, with rosy lips and white teeth, was sitting in front of them, supervising the children's recitation. Suddenly, his ears twitched. He stood up, straightened his clothes, and looked at the group of people. "When the master calls me, you can't slack off." "Yes, Master Wu Ming." The 3 of them rolled their eyes and nodded quickly. "We will be very good." "That would be for the best. If I find you slacking off, I'll make you copy the scriptures 100 times. Then his figure disappeared and left the spot. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of 3 books falling rang out, and the 3 children instantly collapsed to the ground. "Ugh, why did we have to come here to suffer? What kind of god-forsaken place is this?" one of the children complained. "I am a prince of the imperial court. Why was I lured here by that old bald monk?" "Then you really shouldn't have come. I'm just a little beggar. At least I can get enough to eat here." "Let's rest for a while," the last child said slowly with his eyes closed. "We don't know if we can stay. If we fail the adulthood assessment, we'll all have to leave." "Fine, I'll leave. I've already mastered Qi cultivation. Once I've succeeded, I'll go back, kick my father out, and become emperor myself." As they watched the sea of clouds churn, the young monks fell into a deep sleep. On the other side, Wu Ming arrived at the central temple and bowed to the old monk sitting on the prayer mat. "Master, what can I do for you, Wu Ming? The time has come, the boundless sea of clouds should be born." Yun Du struck the wooden fish, his voice gently flowing into Wu Ming's ears. "But heretical cultivators are everywhere in the western regions, and there is no place for Buddhist cultivators to hide." Wu Ming was somewhat puzzled. With shortcuts available, the western regions have long since deviated from orthodox Buddhism and Taoism. Their birth will inevitably lead to conflict. But how could a few of them in the boundless sea of clouds possibly withstand the numerous heretical Buddhist cultivators? Even if they are defeated, they will not establish a new sect. Due to lax management, everyone will still practice skills to quickly become stronger. "The road ahead is clear. Go forth." As he spoke, Yun Du stopped striking the wooden fish and reached into his robes to take out a token. Chapter 263 Everyone arrives. Auction begins. "What is this?" Wu Ming looked at the seemingly ordinary wooden token, but the ship pattern painted on it had a rather extraordinary meaning. "This is something that can help me escape the boundless sea of clouds and get out of this predicament." Yun Du opened his eyes, a golden light flashing in them. "This?" Wu Ming suddenly looked up at the old man, his eyes filled with astonishment. But he knew his master well. He certainly hadn't said those words without reason. That's precisely why he was shocked. Since 1,000,000 years ago, Wu Yun Hai has been living in seclusion. His gaze swept over the depths of the temple, and he knew very well what was suppressed inside. "There's an auction going on right now, why don't you go take a look?" Yun Du said, then closed his eyes again, the clear sound of the wooden fish echoing around him. A golden Buddhist power traveled underground along with the sound. I could faintly hear roars and howls in my ears. "Yes, Wu Ming takes his leave." Wu Ming took the token and looked at his master's back with some worry as he left. He sat here for millions of years, only leaving once when he was brought to the boundless sea of clouds. As his cultivation level increased, he could feel more and more that the thing suppressing him deep inside was becoming increasingly unstable, and it also completely bound his master here, preventing him from leaving. Perhaps, even Grandmaster's situation is not good? Wu Ming muttered to himself, gripping the token tightly in his hand. Can this thing really change the current state of the boundless cloud sea? The figure appeared in the square, frowned slightly as he looked at the 3 sleeping children, and shook his head with a helpless expression. He just took a deep look at one of the children. Without disturbing them, a flash of spiritual light appeared around him, and he quietly departed. Looking at them, Wu Ming couldn't help but think of himself in the past. He and his two companions had cultivated together, but in the end, only he passed the test and remained in the boundless cloud sea. Of these three children, probably only one will remain. Ultimately, Buddhism and Taoism place greater emphasis on mind and wisdom. Inside the Pengyun merchant ship, the space gradually became crowded as many cultivators entered. On the top floor, Zhou Yun noticed the situation and lightly waved his sleeve. Instantly, the grey mist that had been filling the space churned violently and spread rapidly in all directions. Under the shocked gazes of everyone, the entire space expanded at least tenfold. This is creating space really that simple? They fell silent, no longer daring to underestimate Pengyun merchant ship, and quietly waited for the auction to begin. Upon seeing this, the high-level cultivators carefully sensed the changes in space and became even more eager to see the mysterious Pengyun merchant ship. Is this the Pengyun merchant ship now? In the crowd, a man reeking of alcohol and with bloodshot eyes looked up blankly at his surroundings. Ming Chenyu looked up at the upper floors and at the crowded people around him. This was his first time entering the Pengyun auction house, but he didn't expect that he wouldn't even be qualified to step onto the second floor. Now he truly realized that the height at which Pengyun merchant ship stood was far beyond his reach. Even his father, the king, failed to enter the second level. Thinking back to her first meeting with Zhou Yun, she realized that she was able to chat and laugh with him because of her status. Looking back now, perhaps I was never even noticed by the other person. A self-deprecating smile appeared on Ming Chenyu's face. His eyes filled with complex emotions. Outside the auction house, Uncle Zhou, who was about to leave, watched as the figures arrived again. After checking the other party's cultivation level, he smiled and said, "Sir, you may enter the fourth level." "Bar, thank you." Wu Ming bowed to Uncle Zhou. As he stepped onto the passage leading to the upper level, guided by the signs, he quietly looked around and was quite shocked. How many people are there? With heavy, powerful steps, I climbed upwards. But in his heart, he valued that seemingly ordinary token even more. From the moment he entered, he sensed the mystery of this space, which was far beyond what the Shen Tian cultivation world could possess. "Master, where did you get this token?" An idea gradually popped into my mind. My master has never left the temple, so how could this token fall from the sky? Compared to ordinary cultivators, those cultivators holding Pengyun tokens in the hall looked at the auction house with slightly more fervent eyes. They firmly believed that, one day, they too will be able to sit on it. The Pengyun token is their source of confidence. Tiskesa, what a lively scene. Shen Hong looked down, poured himself a cup of spirit wine, and drank it down in one gulp. I wonder if that kid Bai Hao has arrived yet. Shen Hong couldn't help but laugh when he thought of Bai Hao. If I hadn't been unable to find him after entering the Pengyun space, I would have wanted to stay by his side and see if he could win the auction item. Bai Hao underestimated the complexity of the Pengyun auction. In the Pengyun space, no one knows each other's identities, so no one will give him any face. Even if his father comes in person, he can only speak with spirit stones. Seeing Bai Hao's ashen face was exactly what Shen Hong was looking forward to. He then took out a storage ring and took out one spiritual item after another, his eyes gradually narrowing into slits. Once the auction ends, he can exchange it for the 9th tier Shenming illusion whale pearl. I'm here to undergo tribulation. Shen Hong was already impatient. If he didn't want to watch the entire auction, he would have gone back to seclusion. He had a feeling that unexpected treasures would appear at Pengyun merchant ship's first auction in the central region. On the 5th floor, an elderly man looked solemnly at the auction stage. When he entered it just now, he couldn't sense the existence of the heavenly Tao outside at all. This caused him to panic for a moment, even though he had always been observing the heavens and making predictions. The old man of the stars quietly twitched his fingers, his brows furrowing deeper and deeper, and a hint of surprise occasionally flashed in his eyes. Judging from the timeline, it seems that ever since the Pengyun merchant ship appeared, all the secrets of heaven have become strange. The old man of the stars sighed inwardly. He was certainly not speculating about the Pengyun merchant ship. Even if he was obsessed with speculation, he knew that taboos should not be touched, as that would be tantamount to courting death. In the eyes of the Star Elder, the Pengyun merchant ship was a taboo existence. He was simply combining information from one page to verify the strange events that had recently occurred. Where the rock passes, opportunities arise, and calamities begin. 6 floors. Ancestor, we have quite a few competitors this time. Huang Shu looked outside and said softly. Feng Yen tapped her on the head. We've gotten enough from Pengyun merchant ship. We can't expect everything to be perfect. He then looked at the younger generation behind him. This is the auction you've all been scrambling to attend. Enjoy the show. Feng Yen said irritably. If it weren't for these guys, he could have just used the Pengyun Token to get in. There would have been no need for all this trouble. Elsewhere, a dignified-looking middle-aged man sat cross-legged, waiting for the auction to begin. The palace master of Wanxiong Palace originally planned to personally lead a group to the ancient ruins. However, the decision was temporarily changed due to the appearance of Pengyun merchant ship. Slowly opening his eyes, he steered towards the auction stage. Don't disappoint me, Pengyun merchant ship. Chapter 264 The strange phenomenon of the ancient Qin shocks the entire audience. At the auction stage, a woman in a white dress, with a charming smile, walked out with graceful steps. He glanced around and a smile crept onto his lips. A captivating charm lingered in her eyes. She had been preparing for this auction for a long time, and now she was putting in her best effort. A clear, bell-like sound rang out. Fellow Taoists, you've been waiting long. The Pengyun auction is now officially open. Bang! The gavel fell, its resounding clang echoing throughout the surroundings and drawing everyone's attention. Even before it started, everyone's eyes were already burning with intense passion. Pengyun's name, introduced by Wanbage, had already resounded throughout the entire Shention cultivation world. Now they will have to see if it is true, and if it is, then they feel honored to have participated in this grand event. Most of the cultivators who came to the auction knew that the treasures were not for them. They were there more to experience the atmosphere, broaden their horizons, and have more to talk about. On the top floor of the auction building, Uncle Zhou was brewing spiritual tea, looking at Zhou Yun with a hint of curiosity. Young master, what items have you prepared for this auction? Zhou Yun smiled, leaned back in his chair, and looked down. An item that can shatter all prejudices. Once this auction concludes, Pengyun auction will truly resonate throughout the entire Shention cultivation world, rather than relying on Wanbage's publicity. Seeing Zhou Yun's firm words, Uncle Zhou smiled with satisfaction and looked forward to the upcoming auction. Below, Yu Tong's hand gently swept across, and an ancient zither appeared on the auction stage. The whole piece resembles a piece of carved jade, with a warm and translucent texture. There were no strings on the surface, only the rich source of laws flowing, shimmering with light. The sides of the instrument are carved with exquisite cloud patterns, and the head of the instrument has 7 precious pearls that resemble stars. Looking at the item that appeared on the auction stage, everyone frowned. With the treasure having concealed its spiritual energy, they couldn't see anything unusual about it. What is this? A weapon? Probably so. Someone sighed. Pengyun merchant ship has made a mistake. There aren't many cultivators who use the zither as a weapon. I don't think this auction will be very interesting. Yes, Pengyun merchant ship does have some things, but not many. It was entirely promoted by Wanbage. Wanbage will also lose face this time. The crowd was abuzz with discussion, especially compared to lower-level cultivators. The high-level cultivators were all carefully examining the guqin based on their own knowledge, especially lingering on the 7 precious beads for a long time. They could sense that this item was extraordinary, but they all shook their heads and then looked at Yu Tong, waiting for the auctioneer's introduction. Yutong smiled and took in everyone's reactions. A hand brushes across the body of the zither, fingertips gently glide across its surface, and where there were no strings, layers of flowing light ripple, 7-colored rays of light swirl, and melodious zither music resounds in the void. The guqin, which had been lying quietly on the auction stage, seemed to come alive at this moment. The aura of immortal Tao flowed, the 7 precious pearls displayed 7 colors, bursting with dazzling light, and a celestial melody played, a sound rarely heard in the mortal world. The shockwave spread rapidly throughout the area, and many cultivators felt their minds instantly pierced, their minds becoming clear and all distracting thoughts vanishing. The entire venue fell silent instantly, completely immersed in the celestial music, with only silly smiles appearing on their faces. Only those cultivators undergoing tribulation were able to barely break free from the strange phenomenon. But then, all the bigwigs looked at the auction stage with shocked expressions, at the place completely shrouded in 7-colored light. Finally, someone couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. A celestial artifact. It's actually a celestial artifact. Before the appearance of the celestial charm, no one expected that the seemingly ancient jade zither would actually be a celestial artifact. Even those who had participated in the Pengyun auction, such as Xian Hong and Qi Huangshan, were filled with astonishment. They guessed that Pengyun merchant ship's first auction in the central region wouldn't be simple, but they never expected that the first item to be auctioned would be a celestial artifact. Xian Hong's mouth dropped open, and the spiritual items he was counting in his hand quietly fell to the ground. Pengyun merchant ship, they're about to unleash a powerful attack. Feng Yen stared intently at the 7 precious pearls on the guqin. Compared to the shock he felt from the immortal artifact, he felt even more that the 7 precious pearls were extraordinary. Huang Shu turned his head to look at the little guys who had followed behind him, and they were all smiling blankly. Ancestor, should we wake them up? They look terrible. Feng Yen waved his hand, completely ignoring Huang Shu. Huang Shu pouted to the side, but did not disturb the little ones. In another private room, a teacup was overturned on the floor. A plump old man dressed in a golden Taoist robe, with a ruddy complexion, suddenly stood up, his eyes wide open. He leaned forward, his mouth trembling slightly. 7 luck beads, and different attributes at that. How extravagant. This old man was none other than the immortal ancestor of the Mu family of Wanbage, Venerable Jinbao. With the help of the myriad treasure's enlightened body, he went from being unknown to creating a huge cultivation family that stands tall in the Xian Tian cultivation world. No one dared to look down on him because of his obesity. After calming down, Jinbao Shongren plopped down in a chair, which wobbled precariously. Fortunately, no spiritual energy could leak out within the Pengyun space. Otherwise, the chair would have been unable to support his weight. Pengyun merchant ship, perhaps my Wanbao pavilion really made a mistake. Master Jinbao looked at the guqin and murmured to himself, that is, we completely underestimated Pengyun merchant ship. Perhaps the existence of Pengyun merchant ship is beyond the scope of Wanbage's records. The thought suddenly popped into Jinbao Shongren's mind, but he shook his head and found the idea somewhat amusing. Perhaps, this celestial artifact is the key to their strength. It's not impossible. Pengyun merchant ship is entering the central region for the first time. In order to make a name for itself, it's quite possible that they would bring out a celestial artifact. As he pondered this, a bitter smile appeared on Master Jinbao's face, and he immediately realized that his idea was utterly absurd. A celestial artifact. This is a celestial artifact. What auction house would put a celestial artifact up for auction? Gradually, Venerable Jinbao calmed down. He looked at the guqin with a solemn expression, his hand stroking the back of the chair. He naturally wanted this magical artifact. In particular, it also has 7 luck beads on it, so this is no ordinary immortal artifact. However, Wanbage was jointly founded by 3 companies. The key to its continued existence lies in maintaining a balance. Once the balance was broken, Wanbage instantly collapsed. Each of the 3 families possesses a celestial level being and a natal celestial artifact. What if one of them suddenly acquires an additional celestial artifact? This will inevitably arouse the fear of the other two, and they may even unite to oppose it. Well, Master Jinbao sighed and reluctantly looked away from the Guqin. He looked up, his expression so bewildered that he couldn't even remember the last time he'd looked like that. A pastoral family may be content with the status quo, or they may break free from their comfortable environment and strive for further progress. Chapter 265. The Celestial Artifact appears. The Nine Heavens Jade Pendant Chain. Interesting. Is it an object used to suppress destiny? The palace master of Wanxiong looked at the Guqin and nodded in satisfaction. The first item auctioned by Pengyun merchant ships did not disappoint him. It's passable, though. But then he shook his head. Unfortunately, the myriad manifestations Heavenly Balance Palace has no shortage of such items. As the number one power in the Xian cultivation world, it naturally possesses items to suppress the sex fortune, even surpassing the items on the auction stage. The magical artifact possessed by the Myriad Manifestations Heavenly Palace is called the Myriad Manifestations Heavenly Instrument. It can not only suppress the sex fortune, but also mobilize the spiritual energy concentration of the entire Xian cultivation world to a certain extent. And the once-in-a-millennium grand event, the Spirit Seizing Tournament. It is organized by the Wanxiong Tianheng Palace. Based on the ranking of sect power, the Wanxiong Tianheng Palace will increase the concentration of spiritual energy in the area where the sect's power is located. The Spirit Seizing Tournament is the grandest event in the entire Xian cultivation world. Time passed quietly, and the cultivators below awoke one after another, looking ahead with a slightly bewildered expression. I have no recollection of what just happened, only that I heard a melody, and then I can't remember anything else. The sound of the zither. Everyone looked up at the auction stage, their faces filled with shock. Suddenly, a cultivator in the crowd cried out in surprise. My cultivation has improved, and my spiritual power has become much more refined. Upon hearing this, everyone began to check their own condition. But upon inspection, a chorus of exclamations erupted from the surrounding area. Not only that, at this moment my mind is clear, and I feel as if my soul is pure. Although I don't know why, I think it's related to the Guqin above. Everyone stared intently at the Guqin, no longer daring to underestimate it in the slightest. Most of them, due to their cultivation level, did not realize that this was a celestial artifact, but a Guqin with such miraculous effects was undoubtedly a rare treasure. Having this opportunity, he felt much more favorably toward Pengyun merchant ship and no longer questioned its background. On the auction stage, her jade-like eyes darted around as she looked at her surroundings, her red lips slightly parted. Fellow Taoists, are you satisfied with the gift from Pengyun merchant ship? Satisfy. A unified cheer erupted from the entire stadium. As previously mentioned by Wanbage, spiritual energy will be revealed at the Pengyun auction, and cultivators present will have the opportunity to gain something. The information provided by Wanbage is indeed true, so everyone was speculating that everything about the Pengyun merchant ship must be true. Everything happening before their eyes was gradually bringing Wanbage's description of the Pengyun merchant ship to life, making it more concrete and real. Only those cultivators who possessed the Pengyun Token and had participated in numerous auctions looked at the Guqin with suspicion. Although they couldn't guess the grade of the treasure, they made some judgments based on the extent of their own strength improvement. There has never been such a significant improvement before. Even some nascent soul and divine transformation cultivators benefited from the celestial music phenomenon just now. Could it be? Everyone grinned, and an absurd idea formed in their minds. No way, could it be a celestial artifact? But once the idea came to mind, it was as if it were engraved in my mind and could never be dispelled. The way everyone looked at the Guqin gradually changed, becoming extremely serious and cautious. He then turned to look at Yu Tong, waiting for her to explain, wanting to confirm his suspicions. Sensing the intense gazes around her, Yu Tong waved her hand across the zither, concealing the Taoist aura once more. She smiled and looked up at the 5th and 6th floors of the auction house, her red lips slightly parted. I'm sure some of you have already guessed what this is about. As fingertips glide across the body of the instrument, the principles of Taoism flow with them. This is the first item auctioned at the Pengyun auction house, a low-grade immortal level 9 heavens jade zither. Boom! Yu Tong's voice was like a muffled thunderclap, exploding within the souls of all the cultivators. Even those who had long suspected this were still incredulous when their suspicions came true. This is truly a divine artifact indeed. Amidst the crowd, Ming Chunyu swayed unsteadily, staring blankly at the jade zither on the auction stage. At this moment, he truly felt the gap between himself and Pengyun merchant ship, a gap as vast as the Milky Way, unreachable by the naked eye. I don't know when, did we become so far apart? The image of Pengyun merchant ships entering the Songming dynasty remains as vivid in my memory as if it were yesterday. Wang Wanyan, who was attending the Pengyun auction for the first time, shared similar complex feelings. Even though Wanbage had already heard the news and knew about Pengyun merchant ships' growth, the rumors couldn't truly reflect the Pengyun merchant ship. In his memory, Pengyun auction house was still the place where Xian-level martial arts and Fourth Order heavenly treasures were auctioned. But now that the immortal artifact is right in front of him, Wang Wanyan has a clear understanding of the Pengyun merchant ship. But everything happened too fast. He had only just entered the golden core stage. However, Pengyun merchant ship already possessed the ability to auction immortal artifacts. Pengyun merchant ships never stops for anyone. He looked at the auction stage with a complicated expression. Is this why the ancestor gave me the Pengyun token? He vaguely understood his ancestor's thoughts. Broadening his knowledge was secondary. The more important thing was to instill in him a sense of awe. The Wang family, Go Dao. Steady development is the only way for the Wang family to survive. Compared to those who witnessed Pengyun's growth, the cultivators of the central region did not share such sentiments. As for the Pengyun merchant ship, I am truly impressed by its divine artifacts. Now it seems that the information recorded in Wanbage was not an exaggeration, but a complete erroneous underestimation. So, Wanbage also made a mistake. Is that the key point? A celestial artifact. We just received a baptism of celestial energy. No wonder our power has increased so much. Could this be a magical artifact that provides assistance? The discussion never subsided, and everyone's eyes never left the Guqin for a moment. This is the closest many cultivators have ever come to the level of immortal, and most of them have never experienced the aura of immortality. Pengyun merchant ships gave them their first chance. The first time is often the most important and unforgettable. Most people will never forget their first time in their lifetime. What everyone else could think of, the big shots naturally also noticed. In some respects, auxiliary magical artifacts are far more valuable than offensive weapons. Offensive weapons are only for fighting enemies, but auxiliary weapons have endless uses, improving the sect environment, cultivating disciples. Many people began to rub their hands together, their eyes burning with anticipation as they stared at the jade zither. Among them, the Suin sect, in particular, is skilled in music, and this Guqin was tailor-made for their sect. In the private room where Suyanman was located, the old woman and Ling Yuga looked at each other, their surprise still lingering in their eyes. Elder, what is this? Take it down. The old woman slowly rose and looked at the items on the auction stage. Wait here for a moment, I need to pass on this message. This is something that the two of us can't control. Chapter 266 Re-exploring the ruins. The auction begins. Suyanman is not the only one with this idea. At this moment, cultivators quietly left the auction, spreading the news of the emergence of the immortal artifact. On the 5th floor, Bai Hao shook his head, the burning light in his eyes gradually fading. Sigh. Bai Hao sighed dejectedly. That dilapidated ruin could have been easily found by sending a subordinate to follow those people in. Why did father have to go in personally? Hu Yu stood to the side with his head down, not uttering a word. It naturally understood what Bai Hao was thinking. Without a celestial level expert present, they would lose the qualification to bid for celestial artifacts. Thankfully, It's just a musical instrument. Bai Hao's eyes flickered slightly. This Guqin doesn't seem to fit the temperament of the White Emperor Golden Spirit clan at all, so it's probably not very useful. This is probably the best consolation for missing out on a celestial artifact. It reluctantly looked away from the magical artifact, but it knew perfectly well what was going on. The ancient ruins are located near the northern wilderness. If the hidden dangers within are not thoroughly investigated, the entire northern wilderness will face a crisis. But the king also underestimated the Pengyun merchant ships. In Bai Hao's view, Pengyun merchant ship is the only one that can truly change the landscape of the entire Xiantian cultivation world. If the White Emperor Golden Spirit clan misses the opportunity, it may completely lose its current status in the cultivation world. On the auction stage, Yutong suddenly received a telepathic message from Zhou Yun, informing her of the cultivator's departure. With a smile in his eyes, he looked down at the cultivators below. It seems that you fellow cultivators are not well prepared. The auction will resume in half an hour. Immediately, the cultivators who were originally prepared to watch the drama unfold began to murmur and discuss among themselves. What's going on? What did you mean by those words just now? A cultivator asked in confusion. What else could it mean? Probably no one expected that the first item auctioned at the Pengyun auction house would be a celestial artifact. It seems that those powerful forces have sent the message back. A celestial artifact. I wonder how many immortals it will attract. No one discussed or questioned the last-minute change of the Pengyun auction schedule. The Pengyun auction house, capable of auctioning off celestial artifacts, is beyond their ability to question. At the entrance to the ruins in the northern wilderness sea, many cultivators have already gathered. An immense pressure permeated the air, and the surroundings were completely silent, no living being dared to approach even a fraction of a second. As Taoist Chongheng gazed at the entrance to the ruins, his expression gradually grew solemn, even though he himself felt a pressure emanating from it. He turned to look at a middle-aged man with silver hair next to him. White Emperor, what are your thoughts on this ruin? No, I hope this trip will be fruitful. Bai Di shook his head slightly. These ancient ruins were right on his doorstep, so he couldn't ignore them. If another great war were to break out, like the one that happened millions of years ago, the northern wilderness would inevitably face a crisis and might even become the second region in Xiantian to be destroyed. Just like the eastern regions today. Upon hearing this, Taoist Chongheng was not optimistic about the outcome of the exploration of the ruins. If he were to enter a realm where all the living beings were of similar strength to him, he probably wouldn't gain much. Among the crowd, an elderly man wore a bitter expression. What's going on here? Wasn't it supposed to be at least the tribulation transcending level? Why are we being forced to go? Hidden at the back of the crowd, looking uneasy, was none other than Wei Wuhe, the patriarch of the Luohe sect. He originally thought that the matter of the Luohe sect was over, but the sudden message caught him off guard. Qingyu, please don't let anything happen to you. What Qingyu is doing now is causing him great concern. When he first heard about reselling goods from the Pengyun merchant ship, he was overjoyed, never expecting the Pengyun token to have such an unexpected effect. But after calming down, I couldn't help but feel a wave of fear. Currently, all major forces in the Xiantian cultivation world are frantically searching for the Pengyun token, in case news of the Pengyun token leaks out. The Luohe sect will no longer be facing just one ancient sword sect, but the entire cultivation world. After Qingyu returned from the Pengyun merchant ship, he told him everything that happened inside. Wei Wuhe had no doubt about the sensation caused by Pengyu's power. I hope everything goes well. Wei Wuhe gazed at the horizon, a vague unease creeping into his heart. Qingyu only said that there was an item on the Pengyun merchant ship that could resolve the crisis of Luohe sect, but he did not tell him what the item was. But seeing Qingyu's resolute expression, he knew he couldn't dissuade her. If he were by her side, he could be of some help. Suddenly, colorful auspicious clouds gathered in the void, and a faint pressure enveloped the entire area. Even though the other party had tried his best to restrain himself, Everyone present lowered their heads and dared not look directly at him. Where the rosy clouds converged, a middle-aged man dressed in a 5-colored Taoist robe emerged from within. He nodded to the person looking down. 5-colored light swirled in his eyes as he looked toward the entrance to the ruins and ventured deeper inside. His previously indifferent expression changed slightly, and his brows furrowed a little. All the immortal-level powerhouses clasped their hands in greeting and said, "Greetings, 5 Elements Tao Ancestor." The person behind him quickly responded, "Greetings, 5 Elements Tao Ancestor." Although I have never met this person, I have long heard of his renowned name. The 5 Elements Tao Ancestor, the #1 cultivator in the Xian cultivation world, possesses the strength of an earth immortal. It is because of his existence that the myriad manifestations Heavenly Balance Palace has been able to maintain its position as the #1 power in the Xian realm. The immortal beings rose and came to stand behind the 5 Elements Tao Ancestor, gazing at the ancient ruins that made them uneasy. The White Emperor and Daoist Chongheng exchanged a glance, a hint of surprise flashing in their eyes. They never expected that the person from the myriad manifestations Heavenly Palace would actually be the 5 Elements Tao Ancestor. It seems that the myriad manifestations Heavenly Palace attaches great importance to this ancient ruin, or rather, to the Void Demon clan that has appeared inside. The Great War a million years ago nearly destroyed the entire Xian cultivation world and even interrupted the path to immortality. Thinking about it this way, the arrival of the 5 Elements Tao Ancestor is not too surprising. To avoid history repeating itself, we must go all out. The current Xian cultivation world can no longer withstand such a brutal war. Let's go. The 5 Elements Tao Ancestor's indifferent voice echoed in everyone's ears. 5-colored light flashed, and the figure disappeared from the spot. Everyone immediately followed. However, the somewhat heavy atmosphere eased a bit after the arrival of the 5 Elements Tao Ancestor. With such a powerful lineup, what is there to fear from a mere ancient ruin? Inside the Pengyun merchant ship, Yu Tong raised the auction gavel and slammed it heavily onto the auction platform. Bang! The sound echoed throughout the space. The Pengyun auction is now officially open. Upon hearing this, everyone perked up. It seemed that the cultivators who had left had all returned. I'm very curious about this jade Eru. I wonder if it's a magical artifact that can assist in creating a magical artifact. Inside the private room of Xiuxian Gate, a beautiful woman in a red dress leaned languidly against the chair. Every inch of her body exudes endless charm. She is the embodiment of desire, captivating anyone who falls for her at first glance. The 9 Heavens Jade Pendant Qin? What a fine name, it suits my pure sound sect perfectly. Chapter 267 Xiuxian Sect, Honglon. Greetings, Ancestor Honglon. Ling Yuga, standing nearby, quickly rose and bowed respectfully upon seeing the newcomer. The entire Xiuxian sect held the ancestor in awe. Honglon waved her hand, her red lips parted slightly, and a soft, alluring voice rang out. The message came back very quickly. He brushed his fingertips through the hair by his ear. We originally planned to shut down the Tianzhu Mountain teleportation array, but we didn't expect them to invite the Wanxiang Tianheng Palace. Ling Yuga and the old woman stood respectfully behind him, not daring to say a word. Honglon narrowed her eyes and scanned the area in front of her, a strange light flickering in them. The voice said leisurely, "I still have to give that wild man some face." Upon hearing this, the 2 people behind him trembled slightly, their heads lowered even further. The entire cultivation world knows that the relationship between the Xiuxian sect's ancestor Honglon and the Wanxiang Palace master of the Wanxiang Tianheng Palace is subtle, and the Huawu sect's ancestor Wurong has close ties with the Wanxiang Tianheng Palace's Fairy Xie. With powerful backers, both forces were able to thrive in the central region. As for the facts, no one knows. After all, Fairy Xie is the daughter of the 5 Elements Tao ancestor and the Daoist partner of the Palace Master of Myriad Manifestations. There are many versions circulating among the people as to why the 2 of them went out to seek pleasure. The truth is perhaps only known to the person involved. The auction was already delayed due to an unexpected event, so Yutong immediately began introducing the items on the auction stage. A gentle touch to the zither's body caused a slow, resonant voice to rise. The Nine Heavens Jade Pendant Zither, a supreme innate treasure of the chi-suppressing type. It carries the Tao through sound, protecting the world. But as soon as Yutong finished speaking, the cultivators below were filled with confusion. What is a primordial treasure? Isn't this a celestial artifact? Those present were likely only at the immortal level to know even a fraction of what was going on. Some cultivators pondered for a moment. Perhaps it's a classification system for immortal artifacts. Then what level does this innate treasure belong to? How would I know? Compared to ordinary cultivators, the people from powerful forces who already had designs on immortal artifacts all stood up, looking at the jade zither with shocked expressions. Township transport. They were all wrong. It turned out to be a celestial artifact used to suppress destiny. Luck is an ethereal and intangible thing, but it is related to an individual's destiny and the rise and fall of a sect. If you gain it, you can rise with the wind. If you lose it, you will be doomed forever. Throughout history, countless brilliant talents have perished due to misfortune, and many once powerful sects have collapsed overnight due to the depletion of their fortunes. If this zither can suppress bad luck, the sect's lineage can continue uninterrupted, and the disciples' cultivation will proceed smoothly and without worry. Everyone clenched their fists secretly, their eyes burning with intense desire as they fixed their gazes on the jade zither. Clang! Suddenly, a clear and melodious zither sound rang out, causing the grey mist to ripple and interrupting the cultivators' discussion. All of you fellow Taoists are right in your guesses. The primordial treasure is the classification of immortal artifacts. As for what other levels there are above, I will not go into detail here. Ignoring the curiosity in everyone's eyes, Yutong continued her introduction. This zither was born from the heavens and earth, and contains innate Taoist principles. Wherever its music reaches, it can cleanse inner demons and solidify one's foundation in the Tao. The flowing melodies can gather fortune and bring blessings to the region. Whether for personal cultivation or sect inheritance, it has endless wonderful uses. After speaking, Yutong smiled and swept her gaze over the crowd, her voice suddenly rising in pitch. The Nine Heavens Jade Zither, a supreme innate treasure, has a starting price of 10 billion top-grade spirit stones. Each bid must be at least 100 million top-grade spirit stones. The auction begins. Bang! The gavel struck, its sound echoing through the crowd, but the room fell silent. Not a single person placed a bid. Everyone was stunned by the starting price, and in the silent space, the sound of swallowing could be heard continuously. Is this a celestial artifact? At this price, I can't even afford a fraction of it. We're just here to watch the show. The immortal artifacts weren't originally intended for US. That's true. If we could afford to pay that much, we wouldn't be stuck at the bottom. Let's watch the big shots perform. Compared to the cultivators from the central region, the owners of the Pengyun Token all looked at the auction stage with surprise. Whether it was their imagination or not, they felt that the Pengyun merchant ship had become somewhat unfamiliar. From the moment they put out the immortal artifacts for auction, they seemed to see a glimpse of the magnificence that the Pengyun merchant ship was about to reveal. They didn't know when it started, but Pengyun merchant ship had transformed in a way that completely exceeded their expectations. TSK Tisk. Inside the room, Xian Hong clicked his tongue in amazement after hearing the auction price. Even the action of counting the spiritual items in his hands stopped. Is this the price of a celestial artifact? Xian Hong couldn't help but think of the semi-celestial level item he had exchanged for back then. A complex look flashed in his eyes. The task of fully restoring the ancestor is arduous and the road ahead is long. He continued to count his belongings, head down. I'd better advance and transcend the tribulation myself first. The ancestor won't die anytime soon. Finally, one of the monks couldn't resist making the first bid. 101 billion top-grade spirit stones. After someone broke the silence, the auction prices began to rise. Top-grade spirit stones are the foundation of every power, but compared to immortal artifacts, they become insignificant. Those who could afford to pay a high price placed their bids in a competitive bidding war. Knowing they could never obtain it, their yearning for the immortal artifact made them ignore everything else. Besides, it's just a price call, it won't cost us anything. 200 billion top-grade spirit stones. 300 billion. 400 billion. 100 billion. The room fell silent, everyone was stunned by the bidding price. Is this the Pengyun auction house? What Wanbage said is true. Wanbage clearly underestimated it. Pengyun auction house is 10 or even 100 times more exaggerated than it claims. I wonder what magical effects that Pengyun token has. Everyone was surprised to realize that the Pengyun token, which Wanbage had highlighted, might have even more amazing effects than the information had suggested. The expressions on everyone's faces changed. The auction was a place where spirit stones were compared, and they had no chance at all. The Pengyun token is entirely a matter of luck. If one can obtain the Pengyun token, then becoming an immortal will no longer be a distant dream. 200 billion. Ling Yuga and the old woman stood behind Hong Lon, their palms sweating, barely daring to breathe. Their gazes swept over the items on the auction stage. They had ultimately underestimated the impact of the celestial artifacts. Don't be nervous. I've come prepared this time. My Xiuxian sect is determined to get this 9 heavens jade pendant. Sensing the strange phenomena of the two people behind her, Hong Lon's lazy voice rang out. However, the fact that her hands were gripping the chair tightly showed that she was not as relaxed as she appeared. Yes, ancestor. However, the firmness in Hong Lon's tone made the two of them relax a little. Only that old woman, Meng Xian. His aged gaze was fixed on Hong Lon's retreating figure, a hint of tenderness and affection flashing in his eyes. Miss, you don't need to push yourself so hard all the time. Her gaze gradually lost focus. She wanted to pull the seemingly strong girl into her arms and tell her, "You are not alone." Unfortunately, her cultivation level was too low to be someone else's support. Miss. She couldn't remember the last time she had addressed someone in that way. Chapter 268 Red Mist. Fierce Bidding. The memories hidden deep in my mind gradually surfaced and became clearer. Aunt Meng, look. A little girl in a red cotton-padded jacket, with delicate features, stumbled up to her and looked at her with crescent-shaped eyes. This is the kitten that Daddy brought back for me. Isn't it cute? He held them in his arms, his eyes full of affection. So cute, you're all so cute. Flames roared, smoke billowed, and shouts of battle mingled with cries of agony. A spirited horse burst forth from the fire, kicking up smoke and dust before disappearing into the night. As the morning sun shone down, the little girl opened her sleepy eyes, looked at the unfamiliar surroundings, and tears welled up in her eyes. Aunt Meng, is my home gone? Miss, I will always stay with you. Amidst wailing and crying, the little girl threw herself into the other person's arms. Aunt Meng, I miss my mother, I miss my father. Miss, don't cry. Meng Xian gently stroked her little head, her voice soft and gentle. Your parents also hope you grow up happily. Lon Lon, don't cry. Hong Lon wiped away her tears, looked up at Meng Xian, and sobbed. Aunt Meng, you taught me martial arts. I want to avenge my parents. Good. In just 3 years, Hong Lon, who was only 12 years old, had already cultivated to the peak of the mortal martial arts realm. She only thought that her mistress had amazing talent, never imagining that even in the vast and mysterious world of cultivation, she was a rare genius. On that day, in a luxurious mansion, blood and bones lay scattered. Hong Lon, dressed in a red dress, stood holding a sword, her small face stained with blood looking up at the sky. Aunt Meng, I've avenged them. Will my parents be at peace now? Meng Xian looked at the figure and said, Yes, yes. But what she really wanted to say was, your safety and happiness are the most important things. It was at that moment that she realized for the first time that she was too weak to protect her mistress. If she were stronger, the young lady wouldn't have to get her hands stained with blood. Boom. A sudden clap of thunder sounded in the sky, and a man appeared, soaring through the air on a sword. The other party originally intended to kill them outright, but when their gaze swept over the two of them, a different thought arose. They were taken to a sect called Lon Yu sect. Only now did she realize that there were immortals in this world, and that mortal dynasties were protected by immortals. Gradually, she discovered that this power was not normal, as it used people as furnaces. Fortunately, the young lady was blessed with good fortune. He was discovered to have good cultivation potential and was subsequently taken away. About 3 years later, after that, red mist filled the sky above the entire sect's territory, strange phenomena rose in the sky, and thunder suddenly roared. The overwhelming power of the heavens made it hard for everyone to breathe. After everything calmed down, she opened her eyes and saw a figure with a slightly pale face but a radiant appearance. Her appearance was somewhat unfamiliar, but she recognized her at a glance. "Miss Aunt Meng, no one will be able to bully us anymore." "Miss, are you injured?" Honglon didn't speak, but enveloped the two of them with spiritual energy and disappeared from the spot. At this moment, she was unaware that her young mistress possessed the terrifying celestial enchantment body of the mortal realm. He directly gained Mahayana cultivation upon physical awakening. By the time she found out, it was too late. At that time, a man appeared, and he and the young lady were like a match made in heaven. That period was perhaps the happiest time for the young lady in all these years. But to everyone's surprise, the young lady possessed a celestial charm body, which was born with a celestial charm spiritual root, comparable to a celestial level. Combining with her can result in the birth of outstanding offspring. It wasn't until the other party took the child away that the two learned of the other party's identity. He was actually the palace master of the myriad manifestations Heavenly Balance Palace, the #1 power in the cultivation world. Whether it was because the other party was soft-hearted or because Hong Lon possessed powerful physical abilities, even the palace master of Wanxiong felt a touch of tenderness rising in his heart. They did not kill the two. In the years that followed, Suyin Pavilion was established, and with that unfaithful man as its backer, it gradually gained a foothold in the central region. As for that child, he's said to be dead. Secretly raising a child outside is certainly not something Fairy Xie can tolerate. The Lord of Wanxiong Palace may seem glamorous, but he is actually a man who married into the family. Living in the myriad manifestations Heavenly Palace, he was completely at the mercy of Fairy Xie, and only with Hong Lon could he find a trace of masculine authority. After that, Fairy Xie also went to pursue her own happiness and eventually fell in love with Wu Rong of the Fire Dance sect. Wu Rong received an extraordinary opportunity from a young age, obtaining the Fire Dance Rising Dragon technique. With this technique, he could be said to have left a trail of fragrance among countless beauties. The establishment of the Fire Dance sect attracted numerous female cultivators, all eager to experience the wonders of the Ascending Dragon technique. Inside the auction house, the price of the 9 Heavens jade pendant continued to rise. The few bidding voices from a handful of people conveyed a palpable sense of excitement, making everyone hold their breath. 1 trillion top-grade spirit stones. Hong Lon stared intently ahead. She needs this magical artifact, or rather, the Suyin sect needs it. Only by possessing this celestial artifact can the Suyin sect truly possess strength comparable to that of immortals. She is not at the immortal level. Her path to immortality is severed. How could she possibly break through to the immortal level? However, her physique and spiritual root comparable to that of an immortal allow her to barely exert the strength of an immortal, but she is still only a half-immortal. If it weren't for the myriad manifestations, how could the Suyin sect have squeezed into the top 10 powers of the central region? Thinking of this, Hong Lon clenched her jade hands tightly. You want to turn my Suyin sect into your harem? You're dreaming. She had long been aware of the distorted psychology of the world. With your mere 3 inches, you dare to dream of finding flowers in a secluded path? You are utterly ignorant of your own limitations. As if recalling something ridiculous, a mocking smile appeared on Hong Lon's lips. 10 trillion top-grade spirit stones. 12 trillion top-grade spirit stones. 13 trillion top-grade spirit stones. The cultivators present were flushed red, their hearts pounding as they listened to the bidding sounds. Everyone knew that the fate of this celestial artifact was about to be decided. 2 other forces are now involved, and one of them is still somewhat hesitant when making its offer. Besides Honglon, the other person was Master Jinbao. After careful consideration, Venerable Jinbao decided to participate in the auction. Let Wanbage's so-called balance be broken. Only by breaking things can we usher in a new life. He certainly wouldn't have made this choice before Pengyun merchant ship appeared. But the profound depths of Pengyun merchant ships gave him a glimpse of an unknown possibility. Perhaps with the help of the Pengyun Token and the Pengyun merchant ship, the Mu family could completely break away from the Wanbao pavilion and go further. Master Jinbao rose from an unknown cultivator to his current position, naturally possessing both courage and decisiveness. I am never an indecisive person. 1,400 billion. The bidding spiel rang out again. Master Jinbao rubbed his palms together, his gaze fixed on the 9 heavens jade zither, a hint of hesitation appearing on his face. For the Mu family, the 9 heavens jade pendant is not the best choice. They should spend their resources more wisely. The entire hall fell silent, and everyone's eyes turned to the auction stage, where Yutong had already raised the auction hammer high. Once the hammer strikes, the ownership of the immortal artifact will be determined. Chapter 269 Yunlon obtains a treasure, Pengyun illusion. Bang! Congratulations, fellow Daoist, on successfully acquiring the low-grade innate treasure, the 9 heavens jade zither, with 1.4 trillion top-grade spirit stones. With her gentle, captivating voice, Yutong announced the final ownership of this celestial artifact. As Yutong finished speaking, a collective gasp filled the silent auction hall. Wow, I was so nervous. I was so tense just now. Who isn't? My heart is about to jump out of my chest. Is this the Pengyun auction? It's such an honor to be able to participate. A celestial artifact? We've been to the point of being people who have seen celestial artifacts before. A chorus of exclamations rose and fell among the crowd, and the Pengyun merchant ship's position in their hearts continued to rise, becoming unshakable. They truly experienced the mystery and power of the Pengyun merchant ship, rather than just hearing about it through Wanbage. Inside the 5th-floor room of the auction house, a blue halo flowed, and everyone's gaze was fixed on the ancient zither that shimmered with a hazy blue light. Honglon reached out and stroked the body of the zither, the touch warm and lively, the power of the laws winding around her fingertips. Truly worthy of being called a celestial artifact. As Honglon sighed, a hazy starlight rose up and surrounded her when her fingertips touched the jewel at the head of the zither. Meng Xian and Ling Yuge, standing nearby, were unconsciously drawn to the scene before them. Meng Xian's gaze fell on Honglan's back, and a look of gratified smile appeared in her eyes. Miss, you must grow stronger and stronger, strong enough that you will never be bullied again. Honglon directly infused her spiritual power and soul, while the 9 heavens jade pendant actively absorbed it, recognizing it as its master. Even she didn't expect the process to be so simple. Logically speaking, it should be extremely difficult for a celestial artifact to recognize its master, and she had even prepared to nurture it with her divine soul for a long time. Unbeknownst to her, helping guests identify their owners was part of the Pengyun auctions process. A flash of cyan light appeared, and the 9 heavens jade pendant chain disappeared into Honglon's body. The 2 people behind him suddenly felt that their sect leader's temperament had changed at this moment. He seemed to be in front of them, but they couldn't quite figure him out. Honglon naturally felt the changes within herself, which was due to the protective effect of the immortal artifact. In particular, the 9 heavens jade pendant chain is a celestial artifact that can suppress bad luck and increase the owner's own fortune. Pengyun merchant ship. Honglon looked ahead and said in a distant tone, "It seems there is also a Pengyun token." Right, Aunt Meng. Honglon suddenly turned around and looked at the old woman with a smile. Upon hearing the way the other person addressed her, Meng Xian froze on the spot. Looking at the smiling face before me, which had become even more mature. Meng Xian's voice trembled slightly, but she replied happily, "Yes, miss." He then whispered a reminder, "But the Pengyun token must not be found through outsiders. That would only bring disaster to the sect." Honglon nodded, her eyes thoughtful. The room where the palace master of Wanxiong Palace resides is on the 6th floor of the auction house. This 9 heavens jade pendant zither is quite suitable for Lonlon. He picked up a cup of tea filled with hawthorn berries from the table and drank it all in one gulp. He reached out and supported his right waist, a greasy smile spreading across his face. "I wonder if Lonlon has missed me lately." He poured himself another cup of his secret recipe tea, feeling that his body was starting to feel the strain lately. In such a vast Suyin sect, he gradually felt that he was willing but unable to do more. Hearing the murmurs below, Uncle Zhou's smile never faded. He was naturally happy to hear praise from others. He bent down to refill Zhou Yun's teacup, saying excitedly, "Young master, this time no one will question the reputation of Pengyun merchant ships anymore." "Of course." Zhou Yun poured tea, a hint of smugness in his expression, and glanced down. "This is just the beginning. Once the auction is over, it will be truly unshakable." Zhou Yun attached great importance to Pengyun merchant ships' first auction in the central region. The central region is not a remote place like the southern region or the western region. As the central hub of the Xian cultivation world, the cultivators here naturally have a broader perspective. If they were to bring out the same items that were auctioned in the western regions, it would still cause a frenzy among the crowd, but it wouldn't leave them speechless with shock. He wanted to use countless treasures to smash the faces of the cultivators in the central region and crush their pride. Let them know that in front of Pengyun merchant ship, they are no different from cultivators from other regions. They are all unsophisticated bumpkins who have never seen the world. Suddenly, a deep blue halo enveloped the entire area, and everyone's expressions gradually became dazed, as if they were swimming in a dreamy blue sea and had transformed into a small fish. A small fish transformed from a cultivator was initially quite flustered upon appearing in this unfamiliar place. Suddenly a small shrimp swam past my side. While breathing in and out seawater, the other person was accidentally swallowed into their mouth. A strange light flashed in his eyes, his body grew a little bigger, and a warm current flowed into his whole body, a wonderful flash of inspiration. This made him start wildly shaking his body, swallowing the shrimp around him. After consuming a certain amount, its body begins to transform, and when it reappears, it has more than doubled in size. He began to set his sights on larger fish. Although he didn't know the reason, he discovered that the more he devoured, the greater his gains. Moreover, the larger the organism being devoured, the greater the benefit. Suddenly, a familiar suction came from behind him, and he began to frantically wag his tail. But then everything went dark. Have I been devoured by someone else? That was the last thought that remained. It turns out that in this unfamiliar place, one can also become a prey for other fish. When he opened his eyes again, he found that he had dropped 2 levels. How can this be? Those were all things I worked hard to devour. With its eyes glowing red, it surged back into the school of fish and began to devour them frantically. He knew that this special place, which resembled a secret realm, must have been created by Pengyun merchant ship. There is definitely a time limit, so he needs to seize every moment to gain more. Looking at the stunned figures below, Uncle Zhou's face was full of curiosity. He turned his head to look at Zhou Yun. He knew that all of this must have been caused by the young master. Noticing Uncle Zhou's gaze, Zhou Yun flicked his sleeve, and a screen of light appeared in front of him, showing a scene of big fish eating small fish. Young master, what is this? Uncle Zhou looked at the scene before him, unable to make heads or tails of it. What's so interesting about this? Why is the young master so happy watching it? A strange smile crept onto Zhou Yun's lips as he pointed to the small fish that was darting away ahead. What if I told you that this fish was transformed from a celestial being, while the big fish behind it was just a chi refining cultivator? Reversing the heavenly gang? Uncle Zhou's mouth dropped open in surprise. Just then, the small fish that the immortal being had transformed into was also swallowed up in the scene. Young master, can this illusion trap a celestial? Uncle Zhou asked doubtfully. Zhou Yun shook his head. No. Then why do they willingly indulge in this illusion? A smile appeared on Zhou Yun's face as he pointed ahead. Because this is an opportunity one gave them. Chapter 270 A Chance Encounter in the Illusory Sea. Yutong looked down at the cultivators below, whose souls had long since departed, and who were lying listlessly on the auction stage, yawning. All of this was arranged in advance, so she naturally knew what was going on. The master is really something. Why does he bestow such heaven-defying opportunities upon these cultivators for no reason? Jade eyes glanced down from time to time, her little brain unable to understand why her master did this. My fingertips lightly touched the object in front of me. It was a 12-petaled lotus that shimmered with a dreamy blue light. This is also the core of this illusion. If it were only this item, it certainly couldn't be considered a heaven-defying opportunity. It merely constructed an illusion. The true opportunity lay in the origin that Zhou Yun dispersed within the illusion through the Pengyun space. Each cultivator's transformed fish initially has 10 points, increasing to 100, 1,000, 10,000. With each subsequent increase, everything will undergo transformation. All cultivators who enter are in the same initial situation, even those at the immortal level. If one is careless, even practicing chi cultivation can lead to the swallowing of immortals. The reason why immortal-level cultivators are willing to enter the illusion is because the rewards they receive after devouring the small fish are different for each level of cultivator. Below the level of nascent soul, it may be pure spiritual power or soul power. Above the nascent soul stage lies the fundamental laws, while at the immortal level, it is the immortal-level origin. In today's Xian cultivation world, these immortal-level ancestors can no longer improve their strength, even if they go into seclusion for tens of thousands or millions of years. Now, the illusion created by Pengyun merchant ship has given them a glimmer of hope. On the top floor of the auction house, Uncle Zhou gazed at the light screen in front of him. Young master, why give them this opportunity? Like Yutong, Uncle Zhou had the same question in his mind. After all, Pengyun merchant ship is essentially a trading venue. Zhou Yun picked up his teacup, took a leisurely sip, and gazed at the scene of people chasing each other on the light screen. If I said I just thought it was fun. Zhou Yun looked at Uncle Zhou. Would you believe me? Of course I believe it. Uncle Zhou nodded, then bowed apologetically. I'm sorry, this old servant shouldn't have had such a question. Zhou Yun waved his hand, looked at the screen and chuckled. Qi refining and devouring immortals, foundation establishment and conquering the divine transformation realm. These miracles can only happen on the Pengyun merchant ship. On the screen, a red octopus is frantically chasing a black and white giant Kuan, as if the two are mortal enemies. Zhou Yun would also explain things to Uncle Zhou from time to time. Look, even a half-immortal can devour an immortal. These two are top predators that have grown to their peak in the illusion. If one of them can be devoured, the half-immortal may become an immortal, and the immortal level may be further advanced. Upon hearing Zhou Yun's words, Uncle Zhou looked at the deep-sea red octopus and the black and white giant Kuan that were fighting, as if he understood his young master's intention. If a cultivator were to advance to the immortal level at this auction, the impact and sensation would be unparalleled by auctioning 100 immortal artifacts. In the Xian cultivation world, where the path to immortality has been severed, the Pengyun auction house can actually help cultivators advance to the immortal level. At that time, Pengyun merchant ship will become the most mysterious and powerful existence in the Xian cultivation world. Zhou Yun naturally had no idea what Uncle Zhou was thinking. All he did, besides having fun, was mainly to lay the groundwork for the future transformation of Pengyun space. That's pretty much what Uncle Zhou thought. He wanted to use facts to tell everyone that there was an opportunity to ascend to immortality on the Pengyun merchant ship. Within the blue illusory sea, the giant octopus that Honglon had transformed into felt inexplicably disgusted by the black and white giant Kuan when it saw it. This is why she temporarily abandoned devouring others and frantically pursued the giant Kuan. A madman. Where did this madman come from? Why is he chasing me instead of devouring and seizing the opportunity? The black and white giant Kuan roared angrily in its heart. Wanxiong was indeed shocked by Pengyun merchant ship's methods, and actually saw an opportunity for advancement here. If I can improve my cultivation, then I will be able to stand up for myself in the myriad manifestations heavenly balance palace and will no longer have to be cuckolded. Therefore, after discovering the wonders of this illusion, he began to devour it frantically. He wants to increase his strength and trample the 5 elements Tao ancestor and that vile woman Xiu under his feet. Just as he was frantically devouring, a giant red octopus suddenly rushed out, and even though he retreated several times, the creature continued to pursue him relentlessly. This truly baffled him. While chasing Wanxiong, Honglon also spread out 2 arms to frantically grab the remaining creatures. She naturally couldn't let go of the opportunity presented by this illusion. Here, she saw an opportunity to advance to the immortal level. As she pursued the black and white giant Kuan, besides finding its aura repulsive, it seemed to be a manifestation of all things. She believed that as long as she devoured the other party, she could successfully transform. Now, relying on the remaining small fish and shrimp is no longer enough to support her transformation to the next level, so she cannot let go of the giant Kuan. Ah, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Can the fighters move further away? A blue whale, several tens of feet long, was frantically running away. Shen Hong's tail was practically spitting smoke as a colossal wave swept in. Suddenly, the sky darkened, and then my entire body was wrapped around a giant tentacle. At the last moment, a voice of despair rose in my heart. No, no, it's my tribulation. It's my tribulation. The chase continued, with Honglon catching her prey while the giant Kuan continued to devour it, each using its own methods to increase its strength. Honglon abandoned all other actions and focused all her efforts on chasing the giant Kuan. She knew that if things continued like this, it would be difficult to determine a winner, and she was unwilling to give up this opportunity to advance to the immortal level. The giant Kuan sensed something amiss behind it and, like the others, abandoned its attempt to devour its prey and fled with all its might. Where did this madman come from? Wanxiong was furious. If he knew who the other party was, he would definitely kill it with a single palm strike once he got out. Suddenly, streaks of green algae shot up from below, sweeping towards the giant Kuan. The giant Kuan charged forward with brute force, but then a swarm of green algae swept in from all sides, blocking its path. Damn it, they all deserve to die. Wanxiong stopped running away and stood ready for the arrival of the deep-sea red chapter. Its giant tail kept swinging, scattering the green algae that tried to entangle it. Don't think you're destined to win. Wanxiong roared, though he wasn't entirely confident and didn't want to fight. But he didn't realize until then that they were destined to only have one survive. Only the one that survives to the end can transform into the next level. Honglon looked at the green algae with a puzzled expression, not understanding why the other party would help her. But he immediately abandoned that idea and charged towards the black and white giant Kuan. 8 tentacles wrapped around its body, and the two began a brutal process of devouring each other. The battle was extremely intense, and it was difficult to determine a winner for a short time. Just then, the seaweed suddenly contracted and rushed into the mouth of the deep-sea red octopus. The movements were so resolute, so decisive. Honglon suddenly froze. At that moment, she seemed to understand something, and a tear slid down her cheek. Aunt Meng, is that you? A deep sense of guilt welled up in her heart. She had neglected Aunt Meng all these years. This is the family that has cherished me since I was a child. And all of this is caused by the myriad phenomena. Then, it angrily looked down at the giant Kuan that resembled all things and began to devour it even more frantically.